Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of people that have been impacted by the healing ministry of Loma Linda University Medical Center, or people that have been on some kind of a journey and they've encountered some kind of a tragic accident, some kind of trauma, a medical crisis, and they've gone on not only to be survivors but thrivers. Our special guest today is one of those individuals that, like all of us, we wake up in the morning and have no idea what is ahead for us. The psalmist, one of the Old Testament writers, says, "Today is the day of the Lord. Let us be glad and rejoice in it." And really, that's all any of us have. It's today. We don't have yesterday, and we really don't have tomorrow. So we need to learn to live each day till its fullest. Our special guest today is Don Schneider, an old friend of mine, and a person that's familiar to many in our listening audience. And Don received some sobering news some time ago. But I want to welcome you here, Don, on our program.
Thank you.
We're going around the world, and people are watching us here on Journey of Hope. So good to have you here. And for our listening audience, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and where you went to school, and about your ministry background.
I live now near Washington, D.C. I'm a pastor. I started my ministry in Arkansas and Louisiana, and then pastored there in Minnesota, and then I went into a conference office to do youth work.
That's probably where I met you.
You and I met in Oregon.
Correct.
As we were both there in that conference. And then I went back into youth work in the central portion of the United States, and then became a conference president at 5 different conferences, and then a regional office, a union president, and then for the last 10 years I've been in the North American division.
Okay, so you've traveled all around, and I knew you in several of those places, got well acquainted. Tell us about your family.
Marty and I have 2 children. We have a girl that's a school principal at an Adventist school. Our son is a physician. He's right now in Juneau, Alaska, and he and his wife have spent some time in Africa. Before they were married, he spent a year in New Guinea. They'll probably go back to Africa again before too long. Missionaries.
You've trained them to be missionaries.
I hope so.
Oh, right. I know you have. Well, we could go on and talk about your work, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about your journey, because I know some time ago you received some sobering news. And we have people in our listening audience that this week received some sobering news. So tell us what happened a few years ago.
One day I said to my wife, "I think I need new glasses." So I made the appointment and got the new glasses, but I said these didn't do a bit of good. And the man that had arranged for those glasses said, you try them out for a little while. You're just not familiar with these. It'll be better.
He thought, you haven't been adjusted, so you're having problems with your seeing then. So
then I tried some drops, and that didn't seem to do anything. And he sent me to a retina specialist. And that man told me that my eyes looked good, but he couldn't explain why I couldn't see.
Now, when you say you couldn't see, what are we talking about?
I couldn't read a book. And
fuzzy.
Right. My secretary could no longer write notes to me with a pencil. She could write with a felt tip marker, and I could read that, but I was having difficulty feeling comfortable driving, so quit that. And one day, there was a man only 5 feet away from me, and I said to my wife, "Who is that?" And she told me it was a longtime friend, and I couldn't recognize him. And then I knew I better do more. I better do something more aggressive. The ophthalmologist that I visited with checked many kinds of things, and then said, "I need to check you some more, but I can't because I've dilated your eyes, so you'll have to come back tomorrow." And we agreed that I would come at 7 in the morning so that I could leave that day yet to go to a preaching appointment.
Had some appointments lined up, and so you came in early.
So he ran the test and then said, I just feel like you need to go to have an MRI, and you need to have it today, and you just take a seat and I'll find a place that can take you today. And then he said, this is the place, but when you go, do not leave. You sit right in that waiting room, and they'll tell me some things, and then I'll explain to you what will be next. He said, I'll be taking charge of your life.
Just like that.
Yes. So when he called me back from that, I was in the waiting room, and he said, well, you have a brain tumor. So I then handed the phone to my wife and said, you better write this down, what he says. And I went and sat down again. In the course of that visit, he said, you'll need to see a brain surgeon. But
now, this was the first time you had any inkling, other than the fact that you had some problems.
I thought I had a cataract. That's what I thought.
Something that could easily be taken care of.
Right.
But now he comes back with the words, you have a brain tumor.
Right. He said to go see this certain surgeon, but he said, you won't be able to get in. But I know him, and I've made the appointment for you, so you can get in. So I went to see him on the following Tuesday. There's where I got another indication that this wasn't just a commonplace thing, because in that waiting room, I looked around at the other people, and they didn't come in as easily as I did. They were wheeled in wheelchairs and came limping in, and I recognized this is serious.
So you
But
look
it got
around,
more
these patients
serious.
are all really serious patients, and
Right.
you're in the midst of them.
But it got more serious because the receptionist announced, the doctor has emergency surgery today, so he won't see any of you today. And all of you will be rescheduled for 2 weeks from today. So they started this, and I waited there not knowing exactly what to do. But when they were all done, I went to the counter and I said, I don't know what to say to you. I don't want to be pushy about this. But I understood I had to come here today. She said, what is your name? And I said, I'm Don Schneider. She said, oh, all this other announcement doesn't apply to you. You're a very sick man.
Really?
And you need to be here tomorrow morning. So I was back that morning, and we talked about what I had. He explained that I had a birth defect that only now was beginning to show itself. A cyst.
Somewhere.
A cyst. See, the eyes, you don't really see right at the front of your head. You see at the back of your head. And where that optic nerve goes back, it comes together and then goes out, and right at that place.
At the junction?
Yes, chiasm. At that spot, there was a cyst. And that was filling with fluid and pressing against the optic nerve, so the optic nerve was beginning to get pale.
And that's what was causing your vision problem.
Right. Well, after he explained that, I said, well, I'm busy. And I'll come back in a few weeks and we'll talk about what to do. He said, well, that'll be okay. But if you wait 2 more weeks, you will never see again.
Really?
Because that optic nerve will be gone. So then we did really get serious.
I mean, kind of get your attention.
Yes. I explained that I had a big meeting coming in with several hundred people, and he said, well, give me the list. I'll start calling them. And I'll tell them that if they insist on having the meeting with you, that you'll be blind.
Just like
he
that.
He said, I think they'll agree to change their meeting time. Well, that didn't work, but I understood he was serious. So
Now, how many years ago, how long are we talking about?
4.
4 years ago.
So I had that surgery and skipped the meeting. And the wonderful thing about it, Lynn, if you drive your car in a very bad rainstorm and you don't use the windshield wipers, you have great difficulty seeing.
Very, almost impossible if you're moving along at all.
And that's the way I was looking.
Oh, God.
So I went to the surgery and he said, maybe if you're fortunate, you'll get your sight back in 3 to 6 months.
Really?
Right, maybe. No guarantee, but maybe. When I woke up from the surgery, I was so thrilled because I could see out of the room, past the next room, into the third room, and there was a clock. And I told that man what time it was. And he too was overjoyed because, of course, this is wonderful
And so this is the first time you've been able to see like that?
Oh, yes. I couldn't see like that for a long time. And he was thrilled. And every day when he'd come to see me, he'd grab all of the things in the room that had print on them and ask me to read it. I didn't understand then the seriousness of this either, but I was thrilled to be able to see again. I woke up during the night and I looked at the door. It was a wooden door with grains. That was a beautiful sight. And now when I look at a floor, a wooden floor, and it's all filled with the grain of the wood, it just seems so beautiful to me.
Eyesight's taken on a whole new
That's right.
meaning.
When I look at things like that, I just am so thrilled. Now that doctor told me something. I knew it wouldn't be me, but he told me. He said, once in a great while, these things fill again.
Rare exception.
Rare, but it could happen. But still, we did it. And after I went back for another MRI, he said, well, it has come back, but don't worry about it. If it doesn't move, it's okay. If it doesn't get any bigger, so you come back in another few months and we'll look at it again. That time when I came back, he said, how did you get into my office?
He questioned it.
I said, well, I just walked in here. Why? He said, because this thing is huge.
It had grown that much.
But it's not on the optic nerve. It's going a different direction this time. You walked in here? And I said, well, of course. He said, this is too big. We need to operate.
So this is over a period of several months. It had grown again,
Yes.
continued to grow.
Right. He said, I can't really operate on you, even though I have to. He said, you don't look sick. Well, I said, I don't feel sick. He said, would you go see a friend of mine? And I'd like to get his opinion before I do another surgery. So I went to Boston to visit the man that trained him. And as I sat there, I once again observed the patients and said to Marty, I'm pretty fortunate here looking around. But he asked me about my work and what I was going to be planning, and I said, I leave this week for the Philippines. He said, no. You must not do that. He said, this time, this cyst is pressing in a direction that will make you paralyzed soon.
Really?
He said, you'll be losing this side of your body. Well, once again, I was paying attention. So I thought, what do I do now? He said, if you don't want to have surgery, just go to your office. You can sit there, but don't leave the country. And then when you are paralyzed completely, you call us.
Is that what he said?
And maybe we can bring you back, but I wouldn't be sure of it. So when we left, Marty and I went to have a sandwich and talked about our options, which weren't very many. I called back to Washington, D.C., and I said, well, we've made the visit now. They said, yeah, you don't need to tell us. We've already heard about the visit, and you're scheduled for surgery for Friday.
Just like that.
So the following Friday, I was there. The first surgery, he went through my mouth and through the nose and then back through the skull. But this time, he said the cyst was in a little different position, so he made a hole up here in my head and then put a needle in that hole through the brain and drained the cyst.
Unbelievable.
And I said, you're going to put that needle inside my brain? He said, yeah. He said, I don't think you'll lose much. I wasn't really eager to lose anything. He asked my wife if she thought I had lost any memory through this. She said, no. He never could remember to take out the trash, and that has not changed. So that's healed up. But in a few more months, I could tell that something was going wrong again. I said to my wife, I'm not going to go and see him now. I'm going to wait, because we were going to travel again, and she pulled a dirty trick on me. She called our son, who's a physician, and he called me, and he said, no, Dad, that isn't the way you do this. You go see the doctor before you leave on this trip. So I did. I didn't want to, but this time the story was kind of the same. The surgery would have to take place, and now I have a hole the size of a silver dollar in the top of my head here. But when I came out of that surgery, or when he came out, the doctor came out, he talked to Marty, he talked to our son, and he said, this doesn't follow the percentages. It's not supposed to work this way, but this one is growing. I had asked him, is there anything else we could do? He himself was a kind of a specialist with a gamma knife. I don't know all about what that is, but he explained a little bit about it, but he said, this is not for you. So I asked him about Loma Linda. And of course he had heard of it, but he wasn't sold on the idea to start with. He said, but now, since we have not stopped it with the surgery, it's the right thing to investigate.
So proton was becoming an option.
So he said, I know about that a little bit, but I'll call one of the people at Boston. I have a little better connections there. So he tried. But he couldn't get those people to respond to him. He was amazed and explained to me, said, I live off of referrals. So do they. They got to call back right away. Anyhow, after 2 weeks, he said, they haven't called. I said, may I give you a telephone number for Loma Linda? He said, okay. I said, will you call them? He said, I will. He called Loma Linda and then called me back. He said, within 2 minutes of me placing that call, they had called me back and discussed your case with me. He said, I'll tell you about that visit. Those people know what they're doing.
Oh, great.
Those people know how to treat people. And you need to forget about all these other places. And you need to go to Loma Linda. Amazing. They'll take care of you, and I believe that they can help you. So you go there.
What a testimony.
So I made arrangements to visit Loma Linda. Now, by this time, I'm feeling a little less cocky about the whole thing, realizing that, I'm in kind of a serious position here. Lynn, I really thought for a while that my future would be full-time television that I couldn't see, and I would just sit there and listen. I didn't know, but I wasn't happy about that. But then I came here. I met a lady, a physician. She's just such a wonderful Christian lady, Dr. Laredo. And I had brought a whole bag full of
Records.
MRIs and surgery records and all of this. She studied that over. And with a very serious face, she was looking at those things and then looked up and said, "We can help you."
Oh, wonderful.
And in that moment, I realized that I might not just sit with no sight in front of a television for the rest of my life. So I asked her, "What do I do?" And she explained that we would need to do another surgery and then we could start. And now I go to see her once a week, and I lay down on this tray and I have a treatment with a proton beam, and they shoot this thing. And what they're trying to do is hit the spot where that cyst is attached. Now, it's not simple, because pulling that all out is impossible. It would be like taking the cheese off of a grilled cheese.
Oh, that's graphic.
That sticks.
It's that, yeah.
But she said, "We'll get that." So now I go and have the treatment, 28 of them. And she says that where that cyst is primarily attached, that is the spot they are attacking in these 28 treatments. And I believe when I go in there, I pray for her, and I pray for all those technicians. And I've already told them, "You have my life in your hands, and I believe that God is giving you the ability to give me more life." And I thank God for this.
Well, Don, you're sharing here about this personal journey that you're on. And I'm sure our listening audience are wondering, you've had people praying for you over the last few years, and yet, where is God in all of this?
Lynn, I don't know how everything works. I believe that God is healing me. I firmly believe that. Now, you would ask me maybe, and somebody might, "Yeah, but what if he doesn't? What if this is no different than the surgery back in Washington, D.C.? Well, when I left my office in Washington, D.C., I told them, "I'm coming back, I believe. But if I never come back here, I want you to know that God is still my God. I haven't turned my back on him. He has my life." And this very morning, I said, "God, you know I would like to be healed. You know I'd like to be healed now. But if there's a way that more glory will come to you, that's okay too. Because I believe very soon Jesus will come again. And I'm either going to be healed in the process here, or I will be healed on that great resurrection day when Jesus comes." And there's really not very much time in between there.
No,
I won't miss too much.
You're right. So healing is taking place, and it will be completed.
Yes.
Either here and now, or in the process while
That's
you're
right.
here and undergoing treatment, or when Jesus returns.
Right.
How is this? We got just a couple of minutes left. How is this impacting your family?
Well, my son said, Dad, you better pay attention to everything at Loma Linda because you've had all these surgeries and you can't withstand doing this every couple of months. So this time you got to hit a home run.
You got to do it.
My daughter is a school principal. She's alive and exciting and doesn't talk in quite the same way. But she rarely hangs up the phone without saying some kind of an encouraging thing about how she prays. Marty, of course, like your wife, is a heavy-duty prayer.
That's right.
Now, I'm the preacher of the family, but if you want real heavy-duty prayer, you better call my wife.
That's right. And my wife's the same way.
And she is busy praying. When the surgeon came in, I was in the preparation room and he was going to do this surgery that day. He got there as my family was around and heard them praying, not only for me, but praying for him as he did the surgery.
Oh, praise the Lord.
And I pray for the people here at Loma Linda as they work on me.
Praise the Lord. We're coming down to our last few seconds here. And once again, I want to tell our listening audience that here's an amazing story of a journey that Don has been on. And God's still got wonderful plans for him. And even this week, you yourself may have heard some sobering news. And I want to tell you that God's got a plan for your life. If you'll look to him, he'll open and close doors. He's just waiting for you to come to him just now. And God's got a wonderful plan for Dawn. He's got a plan for you. Until next week, for Journey of Hope, I am Lynn Martell. Until that week, next week, God bless you each one.